He was told to choose one alien girl. Then he calmly chose both. Towering crystalline pillars rose to impossible heights, refracting light into shapes that seemed alive. A soft hum resonated through the room, almost like a heartbeat, and the air carried a faint, metallic scent. He could feel it in his chest. This place had power. Ancient power. The Tristar conquered had summoned him here, and even from a distance he could sense the weight of their judgment. Across the chamber, two figures awaited him. Lyra, the Aurelian strategist, stood with her back straight and her arms folded. Her silver-blue skin glimmered under the chamber lights, and her eyes, sharp and calculating, never wavered from his face. She was calm, precise, and it was clear she had always trusted reason above emotion. Beside her was Salith, the Virene warrior scholar whose deep green skin reflected a softer light. Her posture was relaxed, yet her presence commanded attention. Her eyes were warm, intelligent, and full of unspoken questions. Both were extraordinary, and both were waiting for him to make a choice that, to the conquered, would define not just him but all of humanity. Ethan took a slow breath. He had expected a challenge when he agreed to represent humanity, but this was something else. The council had made it clear. He was to choose one of the two women, and his choice would determine whether humans were fit to join the interstellar alliance. To them, love and emotional attachment were weaknesses. Decisions were to be made with logic, not feeling. Yet he had learned in his travels, and in his encounters with countless worlds, that humans were defined by their hearts as much as their minds. The council's representatives appeared suddenly, materializing in the air above the chamber in 3 concentric rings of floating light. Each figure was different, their forms shifting as if light itself had taken on consciousness. They observed him silently, their collective presence radiating judgment and expectation. "Ethan Cole of Earth," a voice boomed, deep and layered, echoing across the chamber. "You have been brought here to demonstrate the capacity of your species for judgment and clarity. Choose one, only one. Your decision will decide your fate and that of your people." Ethan's gaze shifted back to Lyra and Salith. He could feel the subtle tension in the air. The council believed this was a simple test of preference. He had heard of trials like this in other cultures, primitive rites where power was measured by the ability to pick a side. But he also understood something deeper. The council had no idea that humans did not always operate within the lines they were given. Humans could see beyond simple choices. Humans could redefine the rules. Lyra stepped forward slightly. "Ethan," she said, her voice clear and precise, "I have studied strategy across countless worlds. I can assist you in navigating threats, in planning your campaigns. With me, your path will be safe, calculated, and predictable." Her words carried authority, but also a subtle invitation. She wanted him to rely on reason, to trust calculation above all else. Salith's voice followed, warm and measured. "And I, Ethan, have trained in both warfare and diplomacy. I can help you understand allies and enemies alike, and I will stand by your side through conflict and peace. Choose wisely, for the future depends on it." Her words were softer, but they carried strength. There was no demand here, only an offer of partnership. Ethan raised a hand, gently signaling for silence. "I understand what this trial is meant to show," he said slowly. "You expect me to see this as a choice between two options, as though life is a series of yes or no questions. But that is not how humans see the world." A ripple of murmurs spread through the council rings. The voice from above cut in, sharper now. "Explain yourself, human." "Clarity is required." Ethan took another deep breath. "Humans are defined not just by our logic, but by our capacity to connect, to cooperate, and to understand each other. To choose only one of them would not demonstrate strength, it would demonstrate limitation. It would be dishonest." The council paused. They had not anticipated this. The very rules of their test had been challenged, not with defiance but with reason. Lyra's eyebrows rose slightly, a flicker of curiosity crossing her face. while Salith's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. They both understood what Ethan was saying. Humans could be unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability came from integrity, from seeing the whole picture rather than a narrow segment. "You would forego the test entirely?" the council asked. Their voices blended, layered, a chorus of disbelief. "To refuse to choose is to fail." "I would not refuse," Ethan replied calmly. "I would simply refuse to accept a false choice. Life does not operate on forced decisions. Strength is not subtraction, it is balance. And humans are strongest when we embrace connection rather than limit it." Lyra took a step closer, her usual composure softened slightly by curiosity. "You are saying that the test itself is flawed?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "The assumption that I must choose one over the other is a limitation imposed by your understanding of relationships. It is a framework that does not reflect the reality of cooperation or loyalty. Humans can value both, and in doing so, we are not weaker, we are stronger." Salith's eyes gleamed. "It is rare to meet someone who can speak like that without arrogance." She stepped beside Lyra. "Rare and inspiring." The council did not respond immediately. Silence hung in the chamber, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the soft hum of the pillars. Then, slowly, the outermost ring began to shift, their light dimming and brightening as if they were processing something new. The trial had never been designed to account for an answer like this. Never had a human refused to choose in the way the council intended. One of the council voices, calmer than the others, spoke finally. "Your response is unexpected. Your species demonstrates qualities we had not anticipated. You value connection and honesty above conformity, yet the test requires a decision. Are you incapable of choosing?" Ethan shook his head. "I am capable. I simply choose differently. Choosing only one of them would be dishonest. If the goal of this trial is to test my judgment, then understand this. Human judgment is not measured by the ability to follow arbitrary rules. It is measured by the courage to see clearly, to act with integrity, and to include those who deserve to be included." The chamber trembled slightly as the council reacted. Ethan could feel their unease. The test had failed to capture the depth of human perspective. In a way, he had passed precisely because he had not played by their expectations. Lyra and Salith were watching him, their expressions shifting from curiosity to admiration. "You speak as if you understand strength," Lyra said, voice quiet but firm. "Yet strength without precision can lead to disaster. And yet precision without understanding leads to stagnation," Ethan replied. He allowed a small, knowing smile. "Humans have survived not because we followed rules blindly, but because we adapt, and because we trust in each other as much as in ourselves." Salith stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on Ethan's shoulder. "Perhaps this trial is not about choosing between us. Perhaps it is about seeing clearly and acting with courage. You have done that, Ethan." The council, still glowing in their rings, shifted again. The hum of the chamber grew louder, and the pillars refracted light in new and intricate patterns. It was as if the chamber itself was reacting to his words, testing him in ways beyond the council's understanding. Finally, one voice rose above the rest, trembling with what sounded almost like awe. "Human, you may have revealed something unforeseen. Your species may be stronger than we believed, but know this, the trial is not complete. The consequences of your answer will unfold." Ethan nodded. "I understand, but I will not compromise honesty or connection for convenience or approval. That is the essence of humanity. That is how we survive and how we thrive." The council remained silent, and the chamber slowly returned to its previous stillness. Lyra and Salith exchanged a glance, a mutual understanding passing between them. For the first time, they had been seen not as competitors or prizes, but as equals, valued for their strengths and their choices. Ethan took a deep breath and looked out across the chamber. Beyond the walls, the stars of countless galaxies shimmered, each one representing worlds and civilizations that would one day know the human approach. Courage tempered by empathy, strength balanced with understanding. Today he had begun a new chapter, not just for himself, but for his species. And as the council continued to deliberate, Ethan stood calmly, neither yielding nor fearing their judgment. He had not chosen in the way they expected, but in doing so, he had chosen something far greater, the demonstration of humanity itself. The chamber was quiet for a long time after Ethan's words. The council's rings of light pulsed slowly, like a living heartbeat, as if they were debating among themselves. Ethan stood still, his posture calm, as if he were waiting for the storm to pass. Lyra and Salith remained beside him, their expressions a mixture of respect and curiosity. Neither spoke, sensing that the human had done something extraordinary. He had challenged the very foundation of the council's trial. Finally, the voice of the outermost ring returned, a tone heavier than before, resonating with both authority and caution. "Human," it said, "you have refused the prescribed course. You have ignored the rules of the trial. Such behavior is not only untested, it is dangerous. Explain why you believe your perspective is valid." Ethan exhaled slowly. "I understand why you have these rules. Every species has its way of testing strength, obedience, and judgment. But you have assumed that connection and empathy are weaknesses. You have assumed that love, loyalty, and cooperation reduce clarity. Humans do not see it that way. To value one without the other is to limit your vision. To exclude anyone who is worthy of trust is a failure of leadership, not a display of strength." The chamber hummed louder. The council's members shifted, their forms changing as they processed his words. Some shapes elongated, some rotated in slow spirals, as if trying to visualize the concept he had just spoken. It was clear that the idea of simultaneous loyalty, respect, and cooperation was alien to them. They were accustomed to a strict hierarchy, where decisions were made by subtraction. Remove the unnecessary, choose the strongest, leave only one winner. Ethan had turned that logic upside down. One of the inner ring's voices spoke next. "You are implying that you can maintain loyalty to both candidates. That is illogical. You will favor one as all creatures do. You cannot claim equality." Ethan's eyes met Lyra's first, then Salith's. He saw no fear in them, only understanding. "I do not favor one over the other because loyalty is not measured by competition. Trust and partnership are not limited by scarcity. A human can respect and work with multiple individuals equally if each has earned that respect. That is how humans survive in complex situations. That is how humanity thrives." A ripple of light passed through the chamber, more intense than before. The council's voices merged into one, its tone both warning and intrigued. "Your words are perplexing. Your species' logic is not understood. Yet there is power in what you say. You defy our trial, and yet you may reveal a new kind of strength." Ethan nodded. "Strength is not about domination. It is about adaptation. It is about the courage to act honestly, even when the rules are made to confuse you. Humans are strongest when we act with integrity and when we include those who deserve to be included." "That includes both of these women." Lyra stepped forward. Her expression, always calm and analytical, now held a faint trace of admiration. "You are speaking boldly," she said. "I have faced many trials, many calculations of probability and consequence. Yet your approach, your refusal to limit yourself, is remarkable. It may indeed reveal something the council has never considered." Salith smiled softly. "I agree. The way you see the world is different. It is dangerous, yes, but it is also inspiring. You do not treat people as obstacles or options. You treat them as partners." The council's lights shifted again. This time the inner ring moved closer to the floor, their brilliance dimming and brightening as if contemplating. "Dangerous," they repeated. "Your species does not conform. Yet perhaps this is the very test you were meant to pass. Perhaps clarity is not shown by choosing, but by understanding. Ethan allowed himself a small, calm smile. Exactly. Humans are defined by understanding, by adaptation, and by cooperation. We do not thrive by reducing possibilities, we thrive by embracing them. A long silence followed. Ethan felt the weight of the chamber's judgment still pressing down, but it was no longer as oppressive. The council was listening now, not merely judging. Lyra and Salith exchanged glances, their respect for him deepening. For the first time, someone outside their species had seen them as equals rather than prizes. Then a sudden movement drew their attention to the chamber's entrance. A shimmer of energy ran along the floor, and a projection appeared, a holographic map of several star systems. Red symbols blinked across it, indicating sudden activity at the edges of the conquered's territory. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "The border fleets are under attack," one of the council's voices announced, its tone sharp and alarmed. "A rogue machine fleet has entered our space. They are powerful and coordinated. Immediate action is required." Lyra's hand instinctively went to her belt, where she carried her personal analysis device. "This is unexpected," she murmured, her usual calm tinged with concern. "The council is not prepared for this kind of assault. Their response may be slow." Salith's eyes shone with determination. "Then we must act quickly. The lives of countless worlds are at stake. If the council hesitates, the consequences will be catastrophic." Ethan took a deep breath. "Exactly. This is why humans survive. When rules fail, we do not freeze. We adapt, we act, we find solutions, and we rely on each other. It is time to see what that means." Lyra and Salith turned toward him, ready to follow. The council, though still observing, seemed uncertain. The trial had been disrupted, but now something more urgent demanded attention. Ethan's calm had become a catalyst. Where others saw rules and fear, he saw action and cooperation. He approached the holographic map. "We cannot wait for the council's permission. The fleets are coordinated, but they are predictable. They attack in waves. We can anticipate their movements and strike at their vulnerabilities." Lyra nodded, her analytical mind already processing his words. "We can combine my strategic models with your instincts," she said. "I can calculate optimal positions for defensive formations," Salith added, "and I can coordinate communications between the fleets and ground forces. I know their tactics and can guide their responses. Together, we can minimize casualties and neutralize the threat." The council's light pulsed rapidly, almost as if it were reacting to their combined energy. "Human, you propose action without authorization," it said, its tone a mixture of alarm and intrigue. "This is unprecedented, yet your plan may succeed where waiting would fail. Proceed, but understand that the consequences are yours." Ethan met the council's gaze calmly. "We understand, but inaction will cost more than risk. Humanity has survived because we act when others hesitate. That is our strength." The three of them moved to the map, their fingers tracing lines and symbols. Ethan's human perspective combined with Lyra's precise calculations and Salith's battlefield knowledge to produce a plan that none of them could have achieved alone. They worked seamlessly, their cooperation a demonstration of everything Ethan had claimed: connection, trust, and partnership as a form of strength. Hours passed as they coordinated fleets, guided defenses, and anticipated the movements of the rogue machines. Every decision they made was precise yet flexible, informed by strategy, but guided by intuition and understanding. The humans and aliens together created a network of coordination that no machine fleet could anticipate. The battle itself was intense, though it unfolded mostly through the holographic map and communications links. Ethan's calm voice guided commands, Lyra's calculations predicted the enemy's strategies, and Salith's coordination ensured flawless execution. One by one, the rogue machines were neutralized. Entire sectors that had been under threat were saved without a single unnecessary loss of life. When the last wave of attackers was destroyed, the chamber fell silent once more. Ethan, Lyra, and Salith remained at the map, exhausted but triumphant. The council's light rings pulsed slowly, as if breathing, finally acknowledging the outcome. "You have done what was thought impossible," the council said. "You have acted with clarity, courage, and cooperation, despite the absence of prescribed rules. Your species has demonstrated qualities we did not anticipate. Perhaps the test was never meant to be a choice after all. Perhaps the test was understanding, and you have passed it." Lyra smiled faintly. "It seems your philosophy works in practice as well as theory," she said, glancing at Ethan. "I have rarely seen such a combination of insight and action." Salith's expression was proud, almost radiant. "You have proven that loyalty and connection are strengths. You have shown that partnership can surpass rules and limitations. That is something extraordinary." Ethan allowed himself a small nod. "Humans survive because we trust each other, because we act with honesty and courage. We do not see strength as a choice between one or another. We see it as the sum of all who are worthy of trust. Today proved it." The council's light dimmed slightly, as if accepting the lesson. The trial, as it had been intended, no longer mattered. Ethan had demonstrated that the human approach, cooperation, integrity, and connection, was a force unlike any other in the galaxy. Lyra and Salith had been witnesses and partners, not competitors, and the council had seen, for the first time, the power of a species that refused to be limited by false choices. As the chamber grew quiet, Ethan realized that the trial had not only tested him, it had transformed the perception of humanity itself. Where others had seen weakness in emotional attachment, he had shown strength. Where others had expected division, he had demonstrated unity. The stars beyond the chamber, countless and bright, seemed to shine a little differently now, reflecting the arrival of humans as a new kind of force in the galaxy. And for the first time, Ethan felt a deeper sense of purpose. The trial had been intended to judge him. Instead, he had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not in choice or conquest, but in connection, courage, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. The aftermath of the battle left the grand chamber alive with energy. The hum of the crystalline pillars seemed softer now, yet it carried an echo of what had just occurred. Ethan stood beside Lyra and Salith, their faces reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and quiet triumph. The council's light rings pulsed slowly, almost contemplatively, as if the chamber itself was trying to process the unprecedented outcome. Despite the victory, the situation was far from over. The holographic map still displayed scattered red markers, distant sectors where rogue machines had retreated, preparing to regroup. Ethan's mind worked as methodically as ever. Victory was not simply the destruction of the attackers, it was ensuring that no future threat could exploit the weaknesses of the conquered. Lyra leaned over the map, her silver-blue eyes scanning the grid of stars and fleets. "They are not defeated entirely," she said. "Some of their fleets have moved beyond our sensors. They are reorganizing. If we are not proactive, they will strike again." Salith crossed her arms, green eyes narrowed. "Then we strike first. Waiting for them to return gives them an advantage. We know their patterns, their weaknesses. We can anticipate their moves." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Humanity survives because we act when others hesitate. We do not wait for perfect conditions. We create them." He felt the council's light rings focusing on him. Their observation was intense, though not hostile this time. They were learning. They were seeing the human way, courage tempered by strategy, intuition guided by reason, and unity across differences. The council's combined voice, layered and resonant, spoke slowly. "Human, your methods are unconventional, yet they have proven effective. You demonstrate adaptability and initiative. How do you intend to prevent future attacks?" Ethan's gaze shifted to Lyra and Salith. We work together. Strategy alone is insufficient. Coordination alone is insufficient. But strategy combined with coordination and human adaptability can meet any challenge. We establish patrol networks, communication protocols, and rapid response teams that can act across multiple sectors simultaneously. We anticipate the enemy's moves before they make them. Lyra raised an eyebrow, impressed despite herself. That is ambitious. You propose to restructure part of the Concord's defenses without waiting for approval. Not without approval, Ethan corrected gently. With it. But we act now while the threat is still active. Waiting for bureaucracy will cost lives. The Council must understand that swift action can be combined with long-term planning. That is human efficiency. Salith's smile was steady, confident. I can coordinate the Virine fleets. They are skilled in rapid response and battlefield tactics. With your planning, Ethan and Lyra's calculations, we can establish an integrated defense network that will not only repel these attackers, but also prevent future incursions. The Council hesitated. Their systems were designed for order and procedure, not adaptability. Yet the humans were showing results in real time. The thought that connection, trust, and initiative could outperform rigid control was new to them. One of the voices finally spoke, tinged with cautious respect. Perhaps the human approach is more effective than adherence to protocol. We will monitor your actions closely. Proceed. Ethan nodded, acknowledging the subtle approval. He did not wait. Together, he, Lyra, and Salith moved quickly. The holographic map expanded, revealing the positions of conquered fleets, outer colonies, and known rogue machine hubs. Ethan's plan was simple in principle but complex in execution. They would divide the conquered fleets into rapid response teams, each guided by a combination of Lyra's precise calculations, Salith's battlefield coordination, and Ethan's instinctual decisions based on human intuition. The first fleet was deployed toward the outermost sector, where red markers indicated enemy activity. Lyra's voice directed the movements of hundreds of ships with mathematical precision. Vectors here adjust formation, avoid overlapping fire zones, maintain communication links, she instructed, her tone steady. Salith added her expertise. Engage with care, disarm the machines if possible, protect civilian routes. Maintain the perimeter until reinforcements arrive. Her voice carried authority and confidence, and the fleet responded seamlessly. Ethan observed, noting patterns, predicting weaknesses, and suggesting slight adjustments. Shift 2 degrees starboard on the central squadron. Anticipate their evasive maneuvers. Focus fire on the energy nodes. They are the source of their coordination. Minutes passed, and the first wave of rogue machines fell back under coordinated pressure. The second fleet was sent out, this time targeting a hidden assembly point deeper in the sector. Communication between the human, Lyra, and Salith was flawless. Unlike previous human alliances that had relied on orders from a single leader, this was collaborative. Each voice contributed, and the combined effort was greater than the sum of its parts. The Council's lights shifted again, slower this time, almost contemplatively. They observed the outcome in real time. Ethan realized the significance. The Council had never witnessed cooperation on this level. Multiple species, working together with a human mediator, achieving results beyond expectation. This was what the Conquered had failed to anticipate. Humans could unify others without enforcing control. Hours passed. By the time the final fleet engaged the rogue machine's main hub, the humans and their alien partners had created a network so efficient that the enemy's movements were anticipated before they happened. Red markers blinked and disappeared, indicating that the machines had been neutralized systematically. Not a single conquered civilian ship had been lost. Ethan exhaled, leaning against the edge of the holographic map. It is done. The threat is neutralized. But this is only the beginning. We must prepare for the future, not react to it. Lyra nodded, her face serious but calm. You have shown that human adaptability and foresight are remarkable. I did not expect this level of precision combined with flexibility. Salith's eyes shone with quiet pride. You have proven that leadership is not about control alone. It is about connection, trust, and courage. We can do more than the Council ever imagined. The Council finally spoke, their tone measured but with a new respect. Human, your approach has proven effective beyond our expectations. Your species demonstrates qualities we did not anticipate: clarity of thought, courage in action, and the ability to unify diverse allies. Perhaps the trial we imposed was flawed, and your demonstration has redefined it. Ethan smiled faintly. The trial was never about choosing one over the other. It was about seeing the potential in all capable partners and using it wisely. Strength is not subtraction, it is the sum of what is worthy. Lyra and Salith shared a brief glance, a silent acknowledgement of shared understanding. They had witnessed firsthand what Ethan had been teaching, that humans did not see life as a series of forced choices, but as opportunities to expand, cooperate, and achieve more together. The Council's lights dimmed slightly, signaling the end of the formal observation. We will record this event in our archives. The human method, as demonstrated, will be studied and may inform future operations. You, Ethan Cole, have altered the way we understand strength and cooperation. Ethan turned away from the Council's gaze and looked to the two women beside him. This is not about me alone. It is about all of us, working together. Humans thrive in cooperation, but cooperation is only valuable if it includes those who are capable, honest, and loyal. You both have proven yourselves to be exactly that. Lyra's expression softened, her usual precision now tinged with genuine warmth. You have taught us something that no calculation or strategy could have shown, that understanding, trust, and unity can surpass even the most rigid protocols. Salith stepped forward, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You have shown us that courage is not only in battle but in choice. To act honestly, to include others, and to refuse a false decision, that is bravery beyond measure. Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of her words. This was the essence of humanity: courage balanced with empathy, leadership tempered by connection, and strength that embraced rather than excluded. The chamber pulsed softly, a silent acknowledgement of the lesson taught. Beyond the walls, stars continued to shine across countless galaxies. The humans and their alien partners had not only defended the conquered's territories, but had shown the Council an entirely new way to approach leadership, strategy, and cooperation. In the hours that followed, plans were made to integrate Ethan's approach into the conquered's defenses. Training programs were adjusted, communication networks reorganized, and fleets were reassigned to operate with the level of coordination that humans and their partners had demonstrated. Lyra and Salith were acknowledged not as prizes, but as essential partners, their skills recognized and respected. Ethan watched quietly, his heart steady. The victory was significant, but it was the lesson that mattered most. The galaxy would now remember that humans acted differently, not because they were reckless, but because they valued connection, trust, and adaptability above rigid rules. And as he stood in the quiet chamber, flanked by the two remarkable women who had become his allies, Ethan realized that the true trial had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and challenges, but he now had proof that humans could face them, not alone, but in cooperation with those they respected and trusted. No longer was he being judged simply as a human envoy. He was a demonstration of humanity itself, fearless, adaptable, and willing to act with courage, integrity, and partnership. In doing so, he had reshaped not only the Council's perception but the future of interstellar cooperation. For the first time, Ethan felt the weight of true responsibility, and the exhilaration of a species proving its worth in a galaxy that had never seen such unity before. The grand chamber had quieted after the flurry of activity, though the energy in the room was far from gone. The pulsating hum of the crystalline pillars had softened, yet each vibration carried the weight of everything that had transpired. Ethan, Lyra, and Salith stood together near the holographic map, their faces calm but alert, as the council deliberated in ways that had never been seen before. They were no longer observers only. They were participants in the creation of a new understanding. Ethan could feel the subtle shifts in the council's lights, as if they were reconsidering centuries of protocol. The trial, once rigid and predetermined, had evolved. The lesson humans had brought to them was not one of competition, nor of choosing one over the other, but of cooperation, integrity, and courage. One of the council's voices, smoother now, without the sharpness of judgment, spoke. "Human Ethan Cole, your actions have challenged our assumptions. You have acted with clarity and courage, and yet with respect for others. You have demonstrated an approach that is both unorthodox and effective. We are reconsidering the nature of this trial." Ethan nodded calmly. The trial was never about picking a single winner. It was about understanding what makes a species strong. Humans survive because we act honestly, trust those who have earned it, and work together with those capable of cooperation. Strength is not a matter of subtraction. It is addition, multiplied by trust and courage. Lyra's silver-blue eyes gleamed with quiet admiration. "You have shown us that the best strategy does not rely on domination or exclusion. It relies on understanding, flexibility, and shared purpose. You have proven that partnership can achieve what rigid rules never could." Salith added, her voice firm but warm, "And you have shown that loyalty and courage can coexist. That leadership is not about choosing favorites, but about empowering those who can contribute, no matter their differences. You have redefined what strength means for all of us." The council remained silent for a moment, as if weighing the full meaning of their words. Then slowly the lights began to shift. The inner ring lowered slightly, the outer ring pulsed, and the hum of the chamber seemed to deepen, as though acknowledging that the human's perspective was not only valid but extraordinary. Finally, a single voice emerged, stronger and more commanding than before. "Human, your species has demonstrated qualities previously unrecognized. Your actions have prevented disaster, unified multiple species, and created a framework for cooperation that surpasses precedent. You are no longer a candidate for judgment, but an example of what can be achieved through courage, insight, and integrity. You have passed the trial not by following its rules, but by transcending them." Ethan allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The council's approval was not necessary for him to feel accomplished, but it signified a broader recognition of humanity's unique abilities. Lyra and Salith exchanged glances, their expressions reflecting a shared understanding. They had been partners in something far greater than any competition or test. "Your demonstration," Ethan continued, "shows that inclusion and cooperation are not weaknesses. They are strengths. Humans have survived in countless circumstances because we act together and because we trust those who deserve it. By valuing multiple capable individuals equally, we multiply our potential. That is the lesson I hope the council would understand." Lyra's voice was quiet but confident. "This perspective is revolutionary. I have studied tactics and diplomacy across many worlds, yet I have never witnessed an approach that so seamlessly combines intuition, strategy, and ethical clarity. Your vision is remarkable, Ethan." Salith stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on the edge of the holographic map. "It is more than remarkable. It is a model for leadership. It is a method for survival, not just for humans, but for any species that wishes to endure and thrive. You have shown that unity does not require sacrifice of loyalty or integrity, it enhances it." The council's lights dimmed slightly, then brightened in a pattern that seemed almost like contemplation. "Human," the voice said finally, "you have changed the parameters of this trial. The previous methods of evaluation are no longer relevant. We recognize that your species operates beyond the constraints we assumed. The qualities you have displayed, courage, honesty, cooperation, adaptability, are to be valued above rigid adherence to protocol. You have altered not only the perception of your species, but potentially the approach of the conquered itself." Ethan's gaze shifted to Lyra and Salith. "This was not about proving superiority," he said. "It was about showing what happens when you act with integrity, when you respect capable allies, and when you refuse to accept false limitations. That is how humans succeed, and that is how we will continue to thrive." Lyra's expression softened into a rare smile. "You have proven that strength is not limited by rules. That partnership and insight can surpass any rigid system. We have learned as much from you as the Council has." Salith's green eyes were bright with determination. "And we will carry this lesson forward. Not just for ourselves, but for every fleet, every colony, and every alliance we are part of. This is a new beginning." Ethan's smile widened slightly. "Yes, and it is a beginning built on trust, courage, and cooperation. We have faced the challenge together, and together we will face the ones to come." The Council's light rings pulsed once more, slower now, as if acknowledging the truth in Ethan's words. "We will record these events in our archives. Your approach, your method of leadership, and your demonstration of cooperation will influence the future of the conquered. Humans are to be recognized not for their obedience, but for their capacity to act with integrity, insight, and courage. You have set a precedent, Ethan Cole." Lyra looked at Ethan, her eyes reflective. "You have shown us something that no calculation, no algorithm could have revealed. You have demonstrated the human way of thinking, adaptable, brave, and inclusive. It is inspiring." Salith's voice was soft but firm. "We have seen firsthand that courage and connection can create results that surpass even the most rigid strategies. The galaxy is larger than any single species, yet humans remind us that together, we are stronger than the sum of our parts." Ethan placed a hand lightly on the edge of the holographic map, feeling the energy hum beneath it. "This is only the beginning. Humanity will continue to act, to inspire, and to lead when needed, not by dominating others but by including those who are worthy, capable, and loyal. That is the future I hope to see, and it begins here." The Council fell silent, their rings of light dimming and brightening in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The trial, as it had been designed, was no longer relevant. Humanity had redefined it, not by choosing between one or another, but by demonstrating the power of inclusion, courage, and cooperation. Lyra stepped closer to Ethan. "I have spent my life analyzing strategy and probability. Today I witnessed something that no calculation could predict. The human way is extraordinary," Salith nodded. "And I have spent my life in both combat and diplomacy. Today I saw leadership that transcends protocol. That is the true power you have shown, Ethan." Ethan smiled gently. "It is not about me alone. It is about all of us working together. Strength is not subtraction. It is the sum of capable individuals multiplied by trust and courage. Today we have proven that." The Council's voice finally spoke, slow and deliberate. "The trial has concluded. The methods of evaluation will be revised. Humans are recognized for their capacity to act with insight, courage, and integrity. The conquered has learned from your demonstration, and the galaxy will take note. You have altered the perception of an entire species. You have changed the understanding of leadership and cooperation." Ethan turned to Lyra and Salith. "This is not the end. It is the beginning of a new way forward. Together we can ensure that the conquered and the galaxy understands that strength is not about exclusion but inclusion. That courage is not just in battle but in choice. That leadership is about trust, not control." Lyra's voice was steady, reflective. You have shown us that even in a galaxy bound by rules and protocol, humans have the power to redefine what is possible. That is a lesson that will endure far beyond this chamber. Salith placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. And it is a lesson we will carry forward. Together, as allies, as partners, and as a model for what is possible when courage and integrity guide action. The grand chamber pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the truth in their words. The stars beyond the walls seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the dawn of a new understanding. Humans had not only survived the trial, they had transformed it. They had proven that inclusion, trust, and courage were not weaknesses, but extraordinary strengths. Ethan allowed himself a moment to absorb the significance. The trial had been meant to judge him, but instead, it had revealed the unique qualities of humanity. Lyra and Salith, once considered competitors, were now partners, equal in respect and purpose. The conquered had seen a glimpse of something revolutionary, a species that valued connection as much as strategy, courage as much as calculation, and cooperation as much as victory. And in that quiet moment, Ethan realized that the galaxy had shifted. Not through force, but through example. Humans had proven that true strength lies in integrity, in courage, and in the willingness to act with honesty and partnership. The future was vast, full of challenges, but he knew one thing with certainty. Humanity would face it not alone, but together with those they respected and trusted. The Council's final words echoed in the chamber, layered and solemn. The human way has been observed. The galaxy will remember this day. Your species has redefined strength and leadership. The lesson is complete. We acknowledge humanity not as a candidate for judgment, but as a guide for cooperation, courage, and insight. Ethan, Lyra, and Salith stood together, their expressions calm but determined. The trial had ended, but a new era had begun. One in which courage, trust, and connection defined strength. One in which humanity would continue to inspire, adapt, and thrive across the stars. And as the chamber fell into quiet stillness, Ethan understood that the greatest victory was not in the trial itself, but in proving that true power is measured not by what you take, but by what you choose to include. And by doing so, he had changed the galaxy forever. He was told to choose one alien girl, then he calmly chose both.